Hey, man. I can't hear you. Which I think is you. Maybe. Probably. Still no. Hello again.
Hello.
Yeah. Now my audio is working.
Yeah. No.
Hey.
It did like that I plugged in my speakers after I started the meeting, which usually doesn't have a problem with, but I got confused this time.
Yeah, someday I'll be able to predict what Zoom does with various audio changes, but it's not today.
Discord is polite. If you plug something in while Discord is running, I'll say, do you want to change devices?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
yeah.
Discord's awesome. That kind of stuff works pretty damn well. Although on the other hand, have you noticed in Discord that if you have like a participant is sharing in Europe, then sometimes participants from the US have issues joining or vice versa, probably because they route the video through servers either in the EU or the US. So there's some other video funny thing that Discord fails at. But overall, I like it better.
One thing that I really wish Discord would have is a back and forward button. I use that so much in Slack. With their like hundreds and hundreds of Slacks. I have more Discord servers than Slack servers, and I have plenty of Slack servers.
I'm running 8 different Slack servers right now.
8.
8. I've got 8 different Slack servers that I'm part of. 3 of them, 2 of them are created by me, and then one of them is also managed by me.
I may have 13.
I currently have 6, but I've definitely had cases where I had a lot more. Especially with consulting, especially when I'm consulting through some other company. It's like then you end up with like 3 different Slacks to cover everybody's thing that they want to collaborate with.
I think Benjamin may have missed the time change. It is definitely now. Let me think of a message.
Our time change hasn't come yet.
Yeah, this happens every spring.
We're getting an hour back. We're getting an hour back because we're going to fall.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Austin.
Are we discussing leap year time zone thing?
We are, yeah.
Time changes in different hemispheres.
This is the time where I bring up Swatch time again.
I had my calendar on a completely different time zone, and it said this meeting was going to start at 2 hours later than I thought it was. I'm not sure how I got that.
Just give it another minute and see if Benjamin's able to join us. If not, we'll get underway. And if you wanted to add anything to the agenda today, now is the time to do it. While we're giving us a couple more minutes to wait.
Speaking of, I haven't been able to keep up with everything lately, so I had meant to review the charter stuff by now, but it just hasn't happened yet. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
And a few other things like the use case requirements document I've been meaning to get to for a while as well. Just haven't been able to.
Yeah, I think I finally got through both of those in this past week.
Oh yeah, and there's also Greg's output spec that I've been wanting to get to as well. Too many things.
Yeah, that's I've got the output spec thing just kind of in draft state right now. It's really just more for people to have a look over, see what that would look like as a spec by itself. And yeah, just suggest any ideas. It's in Markdown right now, just can kind of render nice in GitHub if you want to look at it that way. I don't know what our plans are for formatting and various tooling and stuff. So that'll probably change in the future at some point. Welcome, Benjamin.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for my delay. So I wasn't aware of the time zone change. So yeah, that happens.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Why can't we just all change at the same time? But you know, here we are.
Or not change at all.
Yeah. I mean, that would be highly preferable. I mean, I still don't really understand the reasons. It's something to do with farmers and stuff, but couldn't they just get up an hour earlier? Anyway.
Might as well just get rid of time zones in general.
Well, they kind of do that in China. Like some people start work at like 2 or something in the morning.
Yeah, it's just the numbers that change.
Have you started with the agenda?
No.
Okay. Good. Shall I start?
Yeah, over to you.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let me make this bigger. As always, let's start with the meeting etiquette. We are going to record the meeting to share it with the community. And if everyone agrees, I will upload this to YouTube. If there is someone that don't want this video to get uploaded, just send me a private message and I'll take care of not sharing it. if nobody says nothing, so I will upload this video. We encourage everyone to challenge any language or behavior that is harmful or not inclusive or is against our code of conduct. We look forward for everyone participating actively, but when you are not speaking, please stay on mute and use the reactions to ask for your turn to speak. And for today, this is the agenda. First, we will review together the action items of the past session. One item I have included regarding taking a look together to the current results of the survey. And there is another item added by Ben to ask for more feedback for the in-scope section of the charter draft. If you are still on time to add more topics, so the issue is the 343. So if there is something else that you want to discuss today, just edit the agenda and we will go when the other two items are closed. Regarding the action items of past week, let me mark this as complete. There was one item regarding checking with the Postman team if we can have more than one contributors by project. I checked this item with Postman team, and unfortunately, it's going to be just one contributor by project. So yeah, that's, and even though if we have just one contributor by project, we still have to follow the process of Google Summer of Code to approve everything. So we have until not completing the process, we don't know if we are going to have even one contributor. So yeah, we have that risk, but hopefully we will end up with one strong contributor for each project. The second action item, we have a discussion about the pending items for the completing the charter. We had a discussion about that, and Ben said what are the items still pending for feedback. So yeah, the conversation and the discussion is ongoing in that issue 325. Greg, regarding the discussion about what's next for stop using non-keywords, he committed to start drafting a proposal. So I mark this as done. I don't know if there is a issue open or not, but I'm sure that I didn't check with you, Greg, but there will be some work ongoing. So yeah, we can.
There's PR 1387 that is for explicit annotations, is what I'm calling them.
Let me update this.
1387, but it's not in the community repo. It's in the spec.
I'll update it later.
Yeah.
Got it. And the last action was running the survey, and the survey is ongoing. I included an item for discussing this one, so I can share with all of you what I did, in what channels, and what are the current results. Any comment so far regarding the actions for the last session? Okay. Let's go with the agenda. Regarding the survey, what I did is I I ask in Slack for everyone to participate. So I'm not sure how much people is coming from the community and how much people is coming from social media. I also ask for participation in our social media channels. I ask in the OpenJS Foundation Slack server for helping us with the amplifying the message. So they set it in LinkedIn and Twitter. And also I tried to include myself the survey in Hacker News. I don't know if I was as successful as other users, but I did it. And also I add the survey in a few subreddits. So yeah, I tried everything that we know that was working. And for the moment we have 38 responses. The current data. This is the raw data. I have a spreadsheet with doing some numbers. No more replies in the last 10 hours. So let's go directly to the spreadsheet. This is what we have right now. We have 10 people asking for using the X prefix, 10 people asking for this symbol, and 9 people for this one. So it's like, for the moment, the 3 alternatives with more people, with more support. Without any comment regarding what is best solution, I think 38 responses is a good number compared with previous surveys. And I'll repeat during the week in LinkedIn and Twitter to see if we have another push of more people providing feedback. And now it's your turn. What do you think, Tim, so far regarding the responses?
I'm pretty happy with the @ symbol. I could also go for the X dash, but it seems odd to promote a prefix for us that another organization is recommending against. So that's my only hesitation for X dash. I personally don't like the star. I had it listed there as an option because it's a typable character. But yeah, it's not my favorite. I do like the hash though, but I'm happy with @. Jason, do you want to talk to why the X dash was discouraged?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's not really, we don't have the same problems as they do. So it was discouraged because of things like it, people would introduce something as experimental and then it would catch on, and then it would continue. Like they couldn't get away from that X dash prefix, like, because everybody was using it, and so it had to be, supported everywhere. And so it couldn't be. So now you have like a standard header or whatever that looks like it's experimental, but it's not. And so what they suggest is just use the actual name that you want to use. And because that's what it's going to be if it catches on and people end up using it. We don't really have that problem because these because this prefix literally means like it has this this explicit functionality, and that's it. If it has that prefix, it always has that functionality. So it's not really the same problem. And in any case, any prefix is going to be the same. You can have the same issues. It's just a prefix. My only problem with X dash is that I think it's ugly.
And to add to that a little bit, does anyone hear me?
Yeah.
I understand that the X dash just means experimental and that you're not supposed to, it's just for private use between two parties. But then as that private use convention becomes more popular, then it conflates the standardized namespace with the private use namespace, which is not really what we're doing. These aren't for private use. These are for standard use, but they're just not validation keywords. It is an entirely separate thing. So the reason to avoid X dash isn't necessarily because X dash, quote unquote, is deprecated. That's not the technique that we're doing at all.
And what was the outcome, by the way, if you guys can remind me? I think there was a discussion back then about the @sign conflicting with JSON LD. Was the conclusion that doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, JSON LD also uses the @sign. I haven't heard a good argument that poses a problem, though. I mean, JSON Schema competes with like MongoDB, and MongoDB uses JSON Schema now. Like, that hasn't really posed a problem that I've seen. So I'd like to see some more evidence of what are the actual practical problems that could cause.
The one that I remember was, do you remember the case study that I wrote about the W3C Web of Things? Because they were doing something weird where they were mixing JSON Schema and JSON LD on the same documents. I don't have any specific examples right now. I think we have to go through the specifications, and I don't understand very well how they were mixing them, but I'm wondering if the @sign then would mean that they cannot mix them anymore in the same way, or potentially other users wouldn't be able to do so.
Well, if you were to process a JSON LD document as a JSON schema, all the keywords would just be ignored if we adopted this. So I don't know. I guess that's the inverse of this problem. It doesn't impact us. I don't know what JSON LD's requirements are around other keywords that have an @ symbol in front of them. They use @ instead of $. So I don't know. I don't know how @foo would be recognized in JSON LD.
I don't think it would. It
would
either
just be ignored. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just raised that as a comment because I'd seen the sort of intermingling of the two specs that Helman is talking about there, used in a few different places. And I just wondered if there'd be implications in terms of them interacting. But as far as I could tell, it wouldn't impact in terms of what we would expect, or it wouldn't have any impact in terms of implementation or requirements on validators or other tooling which is processing the schema or sections of the schema. Unless
Yeah,
unless we limited the values that are allowable to be only strings, that could be a potential limitation, because I think there are situations where people want those values to be more than just strings. In JSON LD, I could be wrong, but I think that is the case sometimes.
So unknown keywords, would they completely be ignored, or would they be collected as annotations as at the moment?
Unknown keywords would be an error, unless provided with a prefix.
Yeah, exactly. So if I provide one, let's say the at is a prefix, and I type whatever at something, then would that be collected as an annotation still?
Yes.
Okay.
And can be any value, a string, an array, an object.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like it shouldn't collide in any way, at least based on my basic skimming through, for example, the Web of Things specification. Mainly if they are still collected as annotations, even with the prefix, it sounds like it's the same thing.
Yeah, the worst I can think of is that it could be confusing to users who like look at something and they see an at context and are like, am I looking at a JSON document or a JSON LD document?
Yeah, that was my only other concern, was existing things or things that wanted to create where they mix the two. It would make them potentially less maintainable, because they wouldn't necessarily know which parts are which.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a big enough concern that it should alter. Like I haven't seen anybody actually doing that.
Somewhere there's going to be some creative dev who tries to combine a JSON LD with a JSON schema in the same document, and maybe it'll collide and blow up somewhere. I don't know. But I think for the most part, I think we're safe to use at.
Yeah, me too.
And also there's the benefit of at being an A type thingy, which is, hopefully will help people remember that it's for annotations only.
That's a good analogy.
So I put a PR that kind of tries to add this into the spec. Linked it in there. It's that 1387. So go have a look at that. I started to kind of restrict the unknown keyword or unrecognized keywords language a little bit, but then I pulled that out. So it's really just adding some text about at keywords.
Any other comment on this one? Shall we go to the next topic then? Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. And the next topic is yours, Ben. So you can go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. So if you want to open up that link, or if Benjamin, you want to bring that up on screen, I've listed some of our how we phrased it is primary concerns and secondary concerns. Where I think primary concerns are top priorities, things we should be seeking to immediately do and spend considerable effort on in terms of what we have available to us in terms of people's time and effort. And the secondary concerns are areas or topics where I think we should, not forget about them, but not necessarily spend immediate energy on, but we should still have them in consideration when we're making decisions as things that we see within the remit of the project. I know that there has been a little bit of feedback on that. One of the things Greg said is we don't want to restrict it too much. Now this list isn't something we can never change. Obviously we can reevaluate and adapt it, but it would have to go through a change process and be agreed upon by a governing body, and it would be a change of charter, so that would have to be agreed on by not just the governing body but also the OpenJS Foundation as well, because any change of charter requires their sign-off. But yeah, I wanted to sort of bring this front and center as something I really want to get some more feedback on, because it's not a complicated thing in terms of the text, but it is potentially very important in terms of what we're going to be doing as an organization, and I'm looking for feedback, even radical feedback on this. This is just stuff that I pulled out of my mind based on what we have been doing, what I've seen, and the discussions I've had with all of you lovely people. So I'm happy for people to provide feedback now or add comments. But is there anything anybody would like to say immediately on anything there, or anything they'd like to add or remove from that list?
Would it be possible for us to not list them explicitly here and just link to Austin's document? Is that a thing that we can do with the charter, or do we have to have them explicitly listed here?
I think linking to the use cases document would be good, but that's like the use cases document is specifically for what is in the scope of a written standard, and the organization can do other things besides standards, obviously, which could also be listed here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think we should definitely link to that, the use cases document. Maybe we can pull that properly into the repositories, wherever it's waiting for PR, and get the updated version of that.
Yeah, my thinking is that it would be easier to update that use cases document than it would be to update the charter.
Yes. However, one of the reasons I think we want it to be in the charter is when it comes to decision making and us evaluating decisions, we should be using, in some cases, this scope listing to help us evaluate what sorts of resolutions we will be looking for on some decisions. So it's something we will continually want to point to, and it effectively outlines our mission as an organization. And I don't think this is something we can ever revise, as I said. So if we decide that we want to make modifications to that, we should definitely do that. And it's not necessarily an exclusionary list, so there's nothing that says we can't do things outside of that list as well. It just might mean that we have to add it to the list, or it might mean it's hard for us to dedicate resources to things outside of that list as a collective group moving in one direction. Benjamin?
Yeah. Just 30 minutes before this meeting, I was reviewing the scope, and I am suggesting to add another item in the community blog. We were in the current proposal, we have enabling schema authors enabling implementers, soliciting feedback from industry, and communicating value. And I think that could be great if we can add something regarding the sustainability of the project. It's too abstract, but is like making it clear that we are committed to make sure that the project is sustainable in every way. This means renewal of the roles, growing the community, a lot of different actions that if we put all of this in the charter will be too long, but at least it's clear that we are committed to sustain the project, we are here or not in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And we do need to be concerned with sustainability. And we need to put in some work in terms of making sure we have options and putting things in place that ensure our sustainability as a product. So yeah, I think that's definitely something we should be adding to that list. So thank you for that.
And second comment is I mean I reviewed like another 10 or 15 different charters, and I saw other charters that they are directly linking to the making sure that they are pursuing the mission of the project, or the mission or the vision, not putting the details. But that made me think that everything that we have here in this list, if we complete all the actions, we will be like very close to our vision, right? So I think that we have mostly everything. So in the ideal world, if we do all these things, we will be very close to reaching our vision, in my opinion. And if we have to include something in the future, let's follow the change process, the decision process, and so on with the board. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. Does anybody else have any immediate comments they'd like to bring regarding that list, or anything they'd like to discuss currently?
Usually the charter for something like this only needs to be a couple of sentences. And then sort of the details about prioritization can occur on a more ad hoc basis. Like look at the HTTP or HTTPWG or a few others. It goes into a very short sentence. It's like reissue a specification for hypermedia transfer, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't elaborate too much.
Yeah, and I guess that this kind of highlights the like differences that you picked up on, that I'm thinking beyond just the specification work directly. I mean, obviously the specification work is why we're all here, but I think there's a lot of opportunity in terms of the value we can add around making the specification more usable and developing that ecosystem where there are opportunities.
Or some of these are a bit longer than I remember, but still it doesn't go into terrible amount of detail. Like I'm looking at the web payments working group charter right now, and it lists just a couple of examples. The scope is only a couple of paragraphs. Deliverables is just 2 sentences. So
So are you suggesting that this list is too long, or are you suggesting it should be succinct?
It's about right, but
I think you're saying it's longer than
I'm not
most,
sure.
but not necessarily too long.
Yeah, it's both shorter and more specific, but it's not Like, I don't see anything terribly wrong with it. So
yeah, and I guess, and I wanted to see if there are any immediate things that people thought were missing. Benjamin brought up sustainability, which is I think something we need to make sure we're continually thinking of. And I listed them as concerns. It's not necessarily things we need to immediately do. They might be sort of longer term objectives or longer term things that we should think about. But they're things I think should be in scope for being in the back of our mind when we're thinking about anything that we want to do. So I know there are cases in the past where we've had people come, I want to add this keyword and it's to do with like relational databases, and we've gone, no, we don't like that. We'll suggest you go and use something else because we consider it out of scope. And now we have the vocabulary system that we can direct people to that and say, okay, that's great, you want to have that sort of thing, here's the vocabulary system where you can go and use that in a standardized way if you like. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that people have come to us with that we would say is outside of scope based on this list. But if anybody thinks of anything or any situations like that, then I'll definitely be interested to hear. I'm definitely not closing this out immediately, but I am looking to close that, or at least call that section done this week after making a few modifications based on the suggestions.
the question I think we're trying to answer is, if someone wants to write a new feature that uses, or within the JSON schema, where should that work be done? So for things like the basic syntax, the type keyword, that sort of stuff, obviously that should live in a very core part of the specification. But and likewise, if someone's writing a very one-off feature, like regarding a specific part of a personal project, obviously that should be a one-off thing that's not standardized. But for those parts, for those standards and features that are sort of in the middle, like keywords that are specific to a particular database or relational databases, where there might be two parties using it, but it's not applicable to everyone, where should that be standardized? Should that always be inside the organization? Are there opportunities for other working groups to standardize keywords that are suitable for them? If Web Payments Working Group needs a keyword for some reason, would they standardize the keyword in there? That's, I think, sort of the guidance that needs to be given here or figured out.
Yeah, and I think that's what I kind of tried to address with the secondary concerns is areas we're aware of and use cases we want to support at some point by facilitating extensions. But it's things that we should have in mind when we're making decisions, so we're not hindering them. So we shouldn't do anything to hinder those things or those use cases, was my thinking. Not that we necessarily would, but as a kind of mental checklist, like, oh, is this going to potentially impact this other use case in some way? Therefore, we shouldn't do it or do a particular thing.
Yeah, I think our specification covers this sort of stuff, where these extra things are intended to be done, implemented and defined as vocabularies, as separate things that are not necessarily part of our organization. I think the question really is that Austin's asking about is, does the charter should the charter say something about that? Or is it sufficient that the spec kind of covers that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in tandem to that argument, even if we decide that the charter wouldn't need to say anything about those elements, I think there's still things we should look to support in terms of resource. So, we might decide that we're going to have a hackathon for form generation stuff. Okay, so then we can justify using resources because it's part of work we consider in scope of the organization to be caring about it. And that's not necessarily a specification editing related activity. It's more of an organizational decision activity in terms of how we're using resources. So that was my other thought in terms of why I listed them as concerns and not necessarily work. Julian, is there anything you wanted to add to this? I haven't heard anything from you on this.
Yeah, nothing at the moment. I'm probably also behind. I've looked at this a couple of days ago, but yeah, I probably also need to have another look.
Okay, sure. As I say, I'm not looking to close this out immediately, but I would like to sort of finalize that section towards the end of this week. So yeah, if you do have any comments or anybody has any comments, please do let me know. But I'll hand back to Benjamin at this point. Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to share one last comment because I received the inspiration listening to all of you sharing your thoughts. I see multiple benefits in keeping this level of detail in the charter. As you explained it, Ben, it can help us to make it easier some decisions, and it is going to help us to prioritize because it can help us to keep the focus in the things that we decided as critical. But also it can help us to be transparent with organizations and other parties trying to understand what we are trying to achieve. If we put the scope in different documents that are necessary to navigate and go in detail, maybe this is going to include some friction in third parties trying to understand our priorities. So I think that keeping this in the charter is going to be positive. But reading the list right now, I think that we are putting the emphasis in looking at in our own priorities, not being open to engage with third parties. I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly, but it seems to focus it in what we're trying to achieve as a core technology. But I think that we are missing at something to seems that we are an open organization trying to engage with more organizations or enterprise, or because I think that this is another critical aspect, like make sure that we look like an open organization and we are actively looking to engage with the business, with the people that is implementing this in production. So probably a new item in the community list, like actively engage with organization and entities that are using or are looking to use JSON schema, something like this. Like to make sure that we have something to explicitly say that we are an open organization and we are looking forward to be part of multiple ecosystems.
Does the unlistened feedback from the industry not cover that for you, Benjamin?
What item? Sorry, Greg.
The third one, eliciting feedback from the industry. The third one under community. Yeah, that. Does that not cover what you're asking for?
That partially, yes, we are listening, but it's like not only listening, that is reactive. It's something proactive. It's like we are not only waiting you to give us feedback, but also we are trying to engage with organization in business groups. I don't know, whatever are the groups that we might find in the future.
I think the word eliciting actually it implies an active outreach.
That's fair. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely change the language to encompass broader activity. So that's a good point that we can make a change there. But yeah, that was my intention. But actually, it's not just about the feedback, but engaging at different levels and getting them engaged with the activity of the organization. I think is an important point that we want to be involved in.
Thank you for listening my last speech. And let me check if we have something else included in the agenda in the last minute. I don't think so.
Last minute agenda items. I really want to push through that use cases document. Greg, I saw your stuff. I'll try and merge all of that in shortly. And then once that's done, I'll take a look at incorporating those objectives into the core spec. And then that should lay some of the groundwork for changing how we handled unidentified keywords. And yes, with regards to like the PR 1387 explicit annotations, I have an idea about how that would better be worked into the core spec. So I should probably talk about that a little more, or write a post about that a little more, about what that looks like. But some of that depends on like getting that use case and then objectives written in. So there's sort of a logical progression that I need to explain that I'm not fully explaining.
Yeah, when I was writing it, I was thinking that we needed to settle the unknown keyword stuff first. I don't know that we need to. It might be helpful to. I'm not sure. But yeah, if you have other ideas of how to represent that in the spec, you can open up another PR for it, or suggest some changes on mine or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't bad by any means, though. Maybe we can get together later and scaffold some stuff out. Cool.
Thank you, Austin. Any comment by the rest of the group? Okay, so we are done with the agenda. If there is no more comments, thank you everyone for connecting, and have a wonderful rest of the day, and see you in Slack and in GitHub. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Later.